This tiny thing is Sony's latest iteration of the RX100, the M3.
Generally, I prefer cameras with a micro four thirds or larger sensor, interchangeable lenses, full manual control, and a viewfinder. The RX100 has a fixed lens, and its 24 megapixel sensor is 1 inch, bigger than most point-and-shoots, but...
So why? Well, 2 years ago we took the original RX100 on a cycling trip to France and took some of my favorite pictures ever, including this one, which is printed poster size on the wall.
This latest version has substantially improved specs. So this time, we're vacationing in Portugal and cycling down the Danube.
I love the size. It's small enough to fit in my pants pocket. It's light enough to hang from my wrist all day long, and it's tough enough to take the abuse of travel.
So where's the viewfinder? There's a little card and a pamphlet to help you find it. Press the release to pop it up, then pull this. The release also powers up the camera, or use the power switch on top. Press it back in and then down to put it away and power off. The Zeiss lens provides the equivalent of 16 to 70 millimeters. Iris ranges from f11 to f2.8 zoomed in and f1.8 wide, allowing for good control over depth of field. Closest focus so wide is 5 centimeters, fully zoomed in it's 30. The lens extends about 4 centimeters from the body when you power up the camera. There's some retrograde action as you zoom in. You can zoom using the lever and sometimes using the ring around the lens. Handy. The small onboard flash can be tilted back to bounce. There is no flash shoe. That bounce can turn an obvious flash shot into one with more subtle lighting. There is an HDMI out and a USB multiport, which is used to charge the battery. No external charger is provided. The control dial has 4 push points, and there are 4 more buttons, most of which can be customized. This is the new, more usable Sony menu system. Some menu features like Eye Autofocus can only be accessed once assigned to a custom button. Shutter speed ranges from 1/2000 to 30 seconds, plus bulb in manual mode. ISO 125 to 12:8, including auto and multi-frame auto for low light. I found that really useful inside dimly lit churches. There are 10 positions on the mode dial: program, aperture, shutter, and manual, movie, 2 full auto modes, scenes, panorama, and memory recall.
So let's kick this up old school and go full manual. Rangefinder, orthodox, craft photographer mode. And let's pretend that this is a 16mm prime lens, f1.8 to f11. There's no zoom for purists.
The viewfinder is bright and clear, even in dark situations, with no parallax offset to worry about and a nice diopter adjustment. Set the LCD as a data display, which includes a useful option setting menu, and turn review off. No chimping here. Set the mode dial to manual. Let's use the Sunny f16 rule to eyeball our exposures, but remember the smallest iris setting is f11. Shoot raw in case we need to push our processing. Set the film type by setting ISO, white balance, and creative style manually. I'm using Vivid to pretend it's Kodachrome. Customization puts these settings on the quick access function menu, then I can change these for each shot without moving my eye from the viewfinder. Old school would have had physical controls, but here we changed the shutter with the dial on the back and iris using the ring on the lens barrel. Select manual focus, which takes over the lens ring, and adjust using the on-screen distance meter, and now you adjust the iris by clicking the bottom of the wheel to switch between iris and shutter speed. There's not much adjustment between 1 meter and infinity, and you can cheat focus slightly using a smaller aperture for greater depth of field. How am I doing so far? Actually, not that well. I'm finding that my glasses keep bumping into the viewfinder, which then retracts enough that the image isn't in focus any longer. And after reviewing some images, I see I could use a little help with exposure. So let's use the on-screen light meter to assist. We can set it in 3 modes, multi, center, spot, and we'll want that on the function menu. Or check the exposure with the histogram. It's on the data screen. Click the top of the ring to change display mode and see it in the viewfinder as well. Let's also improve our focus reliability by using expanded view, which appears as soon as you turn the lens ring. Alright, so for each shot, select ISO, white balance, and creative. Then depending on the shot, set the aperture or shutter first, use the light meter and then histogram to adjust the other. Then focus and click. If we're not that confident in our exposure, we can bracket. Using the continuous auto bracket with 1 stop latitude, you could go up to 3 stops and 5 shots. Press the shutter, it takes all 3. It sounds like a complicated dance, but really gives you a sense of the flexibility and power you'll find in the M3 to fully challenge your creativity as a photographer. But you might also like to take advantage of some of the sophisticated processing features offered here, like autofocus. You can set the mode, single or continuous, and the focus area. But don't stop there. Face and eye detect are really invaluable focus tools. And I like the large selection of helpful and well-implemented scene modes, which provide excellent starting points for novices. For example, Sports Mode doesn't just set a high shutter speed, it also selects Burst Mode and continuous autofocus. That resulted in a fairly slow burst, so I went back to Shutter Priority Mode, pre-focused, and used Speed Priority Burst to capture more images mid-jump. Novices will also appreciate the ability to dial in a background defocus, as well as adjustments to brightness, color, and vividness, and select picture effects. There's auto object framing, which saves a second version of an image when you haven't followed the rule of thirds framing, and auto smile shutter, which automatically snaps when your subject smiles. The screen flips up all the way for selfies. Selfie mode includes a helpful countdown. I use the auto HDR quite frequently to get a wider exposure latitude. You can set the range up to 6 EV, which looks slightly artificial, but does capture detail across a wide range. Of course, the RX100M3 includes Sony's best-in-class panorama, especially useful on holiday. Also works up and down for tall buildings. I was happy to find a built-in ND filter with 2 modes, auto and on. On a sunny day, that let me change the aperture from f9 to 3.2, or with the aperture at f11 to take the shutter from 125 to 1/10. Not really enough for blurry water effects. In playback, you can apply beauty effects, adjusting the skin tone, smoothing skin, widening eyes, and whitening teeth. When you make those adjustments, a new file is saved along with the original. There are even more features available as downloadable apps. This is a smart camera with Wi-Fi. Some are paid, some free. It takes some setup, and the apps require a Sony Play Memories account. The ability to set up a Wi-Fi network, connect and download photos to my iPad, and post updates on social media was really useful while traveling. It's even easier with Android devices using the one-touch NFC connectivity. The RX100M3's movie mode provides the best quality of all current Sony still cameras. That said, there's no mic in, headphone jack, or audio level adjustment. The XAVCS file format is supported, but only with SDXC memory cards. The data rate is 50 megabits, so the same sensor and rate as the AX100 video camera, but sadly no support for 4K. You can also record in AVC HD and MPEG with a dual mode that simultaneously records a small MPEG file for sharing on social media. The 4 50 megabit XAVCS frame rates include 120, which is great for 1/4 speed slow motion. If you have an external recorder, you can remove the info for clean HDMI output, but there's audio only during playback. Incidentally, set the mode dial to video for 16:9 output. The other modes are 3:2. Video mode offers program, aperture, shutter, and manual options. Onboard mic is fine for ambient sound, but you can hear the compression and some distortion in this recording of Juice at the Beaches Jazz in Toronto. There is a low-level setting, which the manual suggests for recording concerts. I tried both, but didn't notice the difference at these levels. There are video-specific Steadyshot Stabilization options, which work very well, as you can tell from this handheld footage taken on Lisbon's Tram 28 as it rattles along its twisty, hilly track. I really enjoyed using the RX100M3 on this trip. The flexibility to use a viewfinder or the LCD makes it very versatile. The close focus distance and large aperture make it excellent for taking food pictures indoors and out, and the wide angle works well for hotel rooms and palaces. But battery life is short, and even shorter with video. I was glad I had a second battery. And the camera does have lots of exclusions. Certain features prevent you from using others, often unexpectedly and without explanation. For example, if you connect a TV to the HDMI, you can't use the beauty effects. In 120p video mode, you can't use Steadyshot, and resolution is limited to 720. And there are lots of things you can't do while shooting RAW. Why can't Sony engineers meet these challenges? Performance has been improved. I found shutdown, waiting for the lens to retract so I could put it back in my pocket, slow on the original RX100. Here, much improved. Some reviewers have been annoyed that the camera turns off when the viewfinder is retracted. Not me. One commented that the Sony SDXC memory card was slow to transfer files. Mine was not. There are some functional issues, but the bottom line here is great images and video from a very small package.